The moment was harrowing, and the aftermath even more so. The world of the bold and the beautiful was thrown into turmoil as Lee Finnegan's brutal attack on Luna Nozawa was caught on tape. The viciousness of the assault was shocking, even by the standards of this high-stakes, morally complex universe. Lee, known for her composed and professional demeanor, revealed a side that few had seen before, a desperate, frantic attempt to maintain control over her carefully curated world. But nothing could undo the damage she had done. In a split second, the violence became public, leaving a wake of devastation that would affect not only the Finnegan family, but also those connected to them. Bill Spencer and his son Will Spencer were the first to act, rushing to Luna's aid. Their sudden intervention, intended to protect the victim, would throw the Finnegans into an irreversible spiral, one that would ultimately place them at the center of a moral and legal battle neither they nor the public were prepared for. Bill Spencer, a man who had seen and done it all, was not one to stand idly by when someone he cared about was in danger. He had seen Luna in pain before, but this attack was different. There were no excuses for what had transpired, and Bill's sense of justice was triggered like never before. Without hesitation, he barged into the situation and confronted Lee. The confrontation was intense, filled with raw emotion. Bill wasn't just furious for Luna's sake, but also for the family he had tried to protect from the shadows. He had a complicated history with the Finnegans, but even that couldn't stop him from taking action. He and Will together became an unlikely pair of rescuers, pushing past Lee's attempts to justify her violent actions. Bill had always prided himself on being a protector, but this time, he would be fighting not just for Luna's well-being, but also for the very foundation of what remained of his fractured relationships with the people around him. Finn, in particular, would bear the heaviest emotional weight of the entire ordeal. His mother, the woman who had raised him with unwavering love and care, had just committed an unforgivable crime. Finn was shattered by the revelation. His perception of Luo had always been the moral compass in his life, fractured beyond repair. The once immovable pillar of his family now seemed like a broken figure, caught up in a web of lies and violence that was rapidly unspooling. Finn, a doctor who had dedicated his life to healing and helping others, now found himself in an impossible position. Could he still defend his mother? Could he reconcile the woman who raised him with the monstrous actions she had taken against Luna? As the investigation moved forward, Finn was forced to grapple with the undeniable truth about his mother's actions. Lee's attempt to defend herself to Finn only made things worse. She tried to justify the attack, explaining that she was trying to protect her family, to preserve the legacy she had spent years building. But Finn could no longer ignore the chilling reality. Lee had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. The woman who had taught him to be kind and compassionate was now facing the very legal and moral consequences she had always warned him about. It was the ultimate betrayal, and Finn was forced to confront the fact that his mother wasn't the person he had thought she was. The situation became even more complex as Luna herself became an indispensable witness in the case. With the violent assault caught on tape, Luna found herself thrust into the spotlight as a key player in the investigation. But her role as a witness was not without its own risks. Luna had her own secrets that, if revealed, could have disastrous consequences for everyone involved. The truth of her relationship with Will Spencer, the ongoing complications surrounding her pregnancy, and the history between her and the Finnegans were all at risk of being exposed. Each new detail that came to light felt like a new bombshell, one that could destroy more than just Lee's reputation. Luna knew that testifying against Lee was the right thing to do, but the weight of the truth was unbearable. The consequences of this case had the potential to unravel everything she had worked so hard to protect. As she prepared to testify, Luna felt trapped between the need to do what was right and the fear of what could come from exposing the many layers of deception in her life. Lee, on the other hand, was increasingly isolated. The Finnegans, a family that had always prided themselves on their unity, were now torn apart by Lee's actions. Her husband, John Finn Finnegan, struggled to support her while also reconciling the truth of her guilt. How could he protect the woman he loved, the woman who had given him everything, when she was so clearly in the wrong? The psychological strain on Finn was immense. He found himself questioning everything he had known about his family, his upbringing, and his very identity. He couldn't escape the fact that Lee had not only hurt Luna, but also jeopardized the very foundations of their family's values. Would Finn remain loyal to his mother and help her cover up her crimes? Or would he stand by Luna, the woman who had become an unexpected ally and, in many ways, a symbol of the truth he had been desperately avoiding? The legal proceedings became the battleground for the next phase of the conflict. Lee faced charges of assault and battery, a serious crime that could potentially lead to significant jail time. The case quickly escalated into a media frenzy, with reporters and bloggers clamoring for every scrap of information they could get. Luna's testimony was central to the case, and her words would be scrutinized by every news outlet in town. The public, already enamored with the drama of the Spencer family and the Finnegans, watched as the case unfolded, eager for any new developments. Luna's role as a key witness, while crucial for the prosecution, also put her in the line of fire. There were many who questioned her credibility, and there were those who believed that her involvement in the case was just the beginning of a much larger scandal. Would the truth come out about her relationship with Will? Would Bill's ties to the situation be exposed? As Luna stood in the courtroom, she knew the risks she was taking by coming forward, but she also knew that the truth needed to be heard, no matter the cost. As the investigation intensified, it became clear that Lee's actions had far-reaching consequences. The once respected doctor found herself on the verge of losing everything: her career, her family, her dignity. Finn, despite his internal turmoil, did what he could to protect his family, but his efforts were increasingly in vain. He could no longer deny the damage his mother had caused, and he found himself pushed further and further into a corner. Each new revelation felt like a betrayal, each new witness testimony adding another layer to the complex web of lies that had been spun. In the end, it became clear that the fallout from Lee's attack on Luna was far from over. The investigation continued to unravel, exposing more secrets and lies than anyone had expected. For Finn, it was a painful journey of self-discovery as he confronted the reality of his family's dark side. For Luna, it was a test of strength and resilience as she faced the consequences of being at the center of a storm that she never asked for. And for Bill, the opportunity to protect his son and his family, as well as his desire for justice, set the stage for an epic showdown that would change the Forrester family and everyone else involved forever. The battle between truth and lies, love and betrayal would play out in the courtroom and beyond, with devastating consequences for all involved. The tension between Will Spencer, Elektra Forrester, and Luna Nozawa was never just a personal drama. It was always a ticking time bomb, just waiting for the right spark to set it off. That spark came when Elektra found herself sidelined by Luna's unexpected rise in the fashion world, and the consequences of this betrayal became something far bigger than anyone had anticipated. What started as a professional rivalry between two powerful women quickly spiraled into a full-blown media war that not only threatened the careers of those involved, but also sent shockwaves through the Forrester and Spencer families. What was once a triangle of desire and ambition became a battleground where reputation, influence, and power were the true prizes at stake. The spotlight had never shone brighter on their drama, and neither Elektra nor Luna was ready to back down. As their feud exploded into the public eye, every move they made was scrutinized, and the fallout reached beyond just their personal lives. For Will, the situation was spiraling out of control, and it became clear that he was caught between two fierce women, each trying to claim ownership over not just his heart, but his future in the world of fashion. The battle between these three powerhouses was about more than just love. It was about control, survival, and the relentless pursuit of victory, no matter the cost. The media frenzy ignited when Elektra, unable to accept the fact that Luna's unexpected success in the fashion world was threatening her own carefully cultivated brand, went on the offensive. For months, Luna had quietly built her reputation as a rising star in the industry, leveraging her connections and the backing of influential figures like Bill Spencer. But she had also earned the respect of key industry leaders, which made her a formidable force that no one could ignore. Elektra, always a force to be reckoned with, felt humiliated by Luna's success, especially when it became clear that Luna's designs were capturing the attention of top designers and influencers, something Elektra had worked years to achieve. She was not about to let Luna's rise continue without fighting back. What began as a professional rivalry quickly turned personal when Elektra took to social media, going live on multiple platforms, throwing subtle jabs at Luna's design choices, and questioning her legitimacy in the industry. Elektra's live streams, filled with passive-aggressive comments and veiled threats, became viral. Her followers ate up the drama, creating a toxic buzz that soon engulfed the fashion world. But Luna, always the more strategic player, wasn't about to be outdone. She responded with her own social media blitz, using her platform to not only defend herself, but to expose the deeper insecurities and manipulation she believed Elektra had engaged in to climb to the top. The back-and-forth escalated into a full-scale public feud, with accusations flying about plagiarism, shady business dealings, and even personal slights that went back years. Luna, never one to back down from a fight, didn't just defend herself, she launched a counterattack. Through carefully crafted posts, she exposed the hypocrisy of Elektra's criticisms, revealing how Elektra had often used her family name and connections to secure high-profile deals. Luna's followers rallied behind her, sharing her posts, creating hashtags, and amplifying her voice. As the pressure mounted, both women engaged in a back-and-forth of public accusations, live streams, and Twitter threads, all aimed at destroying the other's reputation. But this wasn't just a battle of words, it was a fight for control of the fashion industry, where the public perception of each woman was paramount. And in this game, perception was everything. The Forrester family watched the chaos unfold with growing concern. For Steffi, the drama with Elektra was another example of how their family's legacy was becoming more about personal vendettas than fashion itself. She was already juggling the fallout from the Sheila Carter situation and trying to keep Forrester Creations running smoothly amidst the turmoil. But now, with Elektra at the center of this war, Steffi was forced to intervene. As much as she wanted to avoid getting tangled in her sister's mess, she knew the ramifications of Elektra's actions were too great. Steffi, always the pragmatic one, saw the situation as a threat to the Forrester brand and didn't hesitate to get involved. She reached out to her brother Thomas and the rest of the Forrester team, urging them to work together to defuse the situation before it spiraled out of control. But the damage was already done. Bill Spencer, meanwhile, was watching the situation unfold from the sidelines, a strategic mind always looking for an opportunity. The conflict between Luna and Elektra was, in his eyes, the perfect distraction, one that he could potentially exploit to his advantage. Bill had never been shy about leveraging personal drama for professional gain, and this feud was no different. He kept a close eye on both women, assessing how he could use their rivalry to position Spencer Publications as the top influencer in the fashion media world. While Bill didn't actively fuel the fire, he didn't exactly try to put it out either. He knew that with the right amount of media manipulation, he could control the narrative in a world where perception was everything. That was the ultimate power. But the consequences of this war went beyond just business strategy. As Will found himself at the center of this escalating feud, he realized just how deeply involved he had become. Initially, he tried to remain neutral, focusing on his career and trying to avoid taking sides. But as the pressure mounted, Will's position became untenable. Both women, Luna and Elektra, expected his unwavering loyalty, and the tension between them only grew as he failed to pick a clear side. Will's dilemma was not just about choosing between two women he cared for. It was about understanding where his place was in this industry and what kind of legacy he wanted to leave. His silence became a source of tension as each woman pushed him to publicly support her, creating a rift between Will and both of them. The pressure was overwhelming. Luna's campaign to expose Elektra's actions was relentless, and Elektra's counterattacks were just as vicious. Legal threats began to pile up as both sides accused each other of defamation, slander, and even business sabotage. The courts became a battlefield, with accusations flying about stolen designs and malicious behavior. Will found himself reluctantly dragged into the proceedings, as both women tried to use his connection to the Spencer name as leverage. Bill, ever the strategist, played his cards carefully, ensuring that Spencer publications remained above the fray, while secretly steering the media coverage in a direction that benefited him and his brand. In the end, the conflict between Luna, Elektra, and Will became a battle for control not just of their relationships, but of their careers and their identities in the public eye. The battle was fought not just on the runways and in the boardrooms, but in the court of public opinion. And in this battle, whoever controlled the narrative would win. The stakes had never been higher, and the consequences of losing had never been more severe. With both women determined to emerge victorious, the future of their careers and their relationships with Will hung in the balance. As the media circus continued, one thing became abundantly clear. There was no going back from this war. It was no longer just about fashion. It was about survival, and in this world, only the ruthless would prevail.